The volunteer state has two major industries that are of interest to those concerned with occupational asbestos exposure. One of these is paper and pulp. International Paper, now operating as Evergreen Company, is headquartered in Memphis. The other product is electrical power. The Tennessee Valley Authority, created under the Franklin Roosevelt administration in 1933, is the largest public utility in the U.S., serving approximately 8.5 million customers in Tennessee and 6 neighboring states. Electrical power is generated from hydroelectric plants, coal and gas, nuclear fuel, combustion turbines, and wind turbines. Regardless of the type of power generation, all of these plants have contained asbestos at some point in their existence because of its insulating properties. Risks to power plant workers. Center for Health Statistics data indicates that as many as 3% of all occupationally related deaths in the U.S. are due to mesothelioma. Because of the extensive use of asbestos in such facilities, power plant employees face an elevated risk of contracting mesothelioma and asbestosis. This fact was borne out in a 2003 study of power plant workers in Puerto Rico. Prevalence of chest X-ray abnormalities consistent with asbestos-related scarring was 13% among participants with 25 or more years from onset. 30% gave a history of asbestos exposure prior to power plant employment. Only 11% of the study participants were current smokers. A high prevalence, 46%, of restrictive abnormality was found. Shortness of breath was commonly reported by examinees. It has been noted elsewhere that tobacco use can increase the chances of developing asbestos-related lung cancer by 9,000%. As mentioned earlier, the study also indicated that 42% of the participants in the study suffered from obesity, which may have had some bearing on the shortness of breath. However, that would not by itself have had any bearing on the abnormalities found in workers' chest X-rays. Those at risk for developing respiratory disorders include electricians, pipe fitters, boiler makers, and other repair and maintenance personnel. The reason is that for half a century, asbestos was used as an insulator against both heat and electrical current dangers. At the time, electric wiring, panel partitions, and electrical cloth all contained asbestos materials, which were likely to become friable as they aged. The asbestos danger was not confined to the workers themselves. As several lawsuits have demonstrated, secondary exposure has resulted in the deaths of family members as workers brought these asbestos fibers into the home. The fibers were frequently contained in the hair and on the clothing of these workers and inhaled by unsuspecting family members. Paper and pulp mills. A French study carried out in 2002 involved 63,000 men from 13 different countries. These men had worked for at least 1 year in the pulp and paper industry between 1945 and 1996. Of those studied, 22,650, or about 36%, had been exposed to asbestos fibers at some point in the course of their employment. 14 of them had died from pleural cancer or mesothelioma. The remaining 47,000, who had not been exposed to asbestos on the job, had half the overall rate of mesothelioma of those who had. Statistics for Tennessee. Tennessee has 4 major population centers: Memphis, which is the state's largest city; Nashville, the largest metro region overall; Chattanooga; and Knoxville. The remainder of the state is primarily rural. Most of the state's 676 victims of asbestos diseases during the 2 decades prior to 2000 were from these population centers. Mesothelioma cases outnumbered asbestosis ones by approximately 2 to 1. Legal resources in Tennessee. A search through the Tennessee Federal District Court cases for asbestos-related personal injury product liability lawsuits brings up 2 lawsuits from 2006 and 2007. However, each of these cases is a petition for removal from asbestos litigation, not a lawsuit brought by an individual affected by an asbestos-related disease. Tennessee is ranked 24 in the U.S. for mesothelioma cases, with a mesothelioma mortality rate of 7.09